Rich old lady insults Sandra Bullock in first-class lounge. Keanu Reeves' reaction shocks everyone on side. The luxurious first-class lounge at LAX was buzzing with quiet conversations and the soft clinking of glasses. Among the few high-profile travelers seated in the VIP section, Sandra Bullock was sipping a green tea, her eyes hidden behind stylish sunglasses as she waited for her flight to Paris. Keanu Reeves, dressed in his signature all-black outfit, sat a few seats away, absorbed in a well-worn book. The two Hollywood legends had always shared a bond, ever since Speed, but they weren't sitting together yet. Just then, an elegantly dressed older woman, dripping in diamonds and judgment, entered the lounge. She walked with an air of superiority, glancing around as if everything around her was beneath her standards. Her eyes landed on Sandra. With a scoff, she leaned down toward her, her voice laced with contempt. "Oh dear, I didn't expect to see you in first class. I thought you actors were all flying private these days. Or maybe, is your career not what it used to be?" Sandra blinked, momentarily stunned by the sheer audacity of the insult. But before she could even formulate a response, a voice, calm yet firm, cut through the tension. "Excuse me, ma'am, but that's Sandra Bullock you're talking to," Keanu said, closing his book with deliberate slowness. The woman turned, eyebrows raised. "And who might you be?" Keanu smiled, that signature humble grin of his. "Just a guy who appreciates kindness over arrogance. Also a guy who knows talent when he sees it. Unlike some people." A hushed silence fell over the lounge. A flight attendant standing nearby tried to stifle a grin. Other passengers, pretending not to eavesdrop, stole glances at the unfolding scene. The older woman's face flushed red. She muttered something about not expecting to be lectured by some movie star, before grabbing her designer handbag and marching off to another section of the lounge. Sandra turned to Keanu, shaking her head in amused disbelief. "You didn't have to do that." He shrugged, picking up his book again. "Some people just need a reminder that respect is free." Sandra chuckled. "Well, remind me to sit next to you on this flight." Keanu smirked. "I already got us seats together." The first-class lounge returned to its quiet elegance, but the moment lingered in the minds of those who had witnessed it. Because in a world full of egos and entitlement, Keanu Reeves had once again proven why he was one of the good ones. And Sandra, she just got another reason to call him one of her favorite people. The end. What do you think? Want me to add anything more dramatic? Sure. Here's the continuation of the story with more drama and intrigue. Rich old lady insults Sandra Bullock in first-class lounge. Keanu Reeves' reaction shocks everyone on side. Part 2. As the older woman stormed away, a few passengers whispered among themselves. The whole scene had felt like a moment from a movie, Keanu Reeves defending Sandra Bullock like the effortlessly cool hero he was. Sandra leaned back in her chair, shaking her head with a smirk. "You always know how to make an exit for people, huh?" Keanu chuckled, flipping a page in his book. "I just believe in treating people right. Plus, I can't let anyone disrespect Annie Porter like that." He gave her a teasing look, referencing her iconic character from Speed. Before Sandra could respond, a flight attendant approached, looking flustered. "Excuse me, Mr. Reeves, Miss Bullock. We may have a situation." The two exchanged glances. "What kind of situation?" Sandra asked. The flight attendant hesitated, then leaned in slightly. "The woman who spoke to you earlier, she's apparently one of our airline's VIP investors. She just made a complaint about the unruly behavior in the lounge." Keanu raised an eyebrow. "Unruly? For what? Sitting quietly?" The attendant sighed. "She specifically mentioned feeling unsafe because of you, sir." Sandra let out a scoffing laugh. "You've got to be kidding me." Keanu, ever calm, leaned forward. "Is there a problem with our seats on the flight?" The attendant hesitated again. "She requested that you both be moved out of first class." For the first time, Keanu actually looked mildly annoyed. Sandra, on the other hand, stood up. "Oh, no, we're not letting some entitled rude." Keanu put a hand on her arm, his signature zen-like patience kicking in. "It's fine, let's see how this plays out." Before the flight attendant could say anything else, the airline's lounge manager, a sharply dressed man with a name tag that read Marcus, arrived. He was holding a tablet and looking visibly nervous. "Mr. Reeves, Ms. Bullock, I deeply apologize. We are not moving your seats. In fact, after reviewing the situation, our security team has made a decision." He paused. Sandra leaned in. "And?" Marcus took a breath. "We will be escorting her off the flight instead." A hush fell over the lounge again. Sandra's jaw dropped. Keanu just blinked before offering a small, approving nod. "Wait, really?" Sandra asked, still processing. Marcus gave a diplomatic smile. "We take our passengers' comfort and safety very seriously. Our airline has a strict policy against harassment, even from our investors. After reviewing security footage and speaking to witnesses, we determined that she was the one causing a disturbance. She will be rebooked on a different flight." Sandra looked at Keanu, who was now actually smirking. "Well, that's unexpected." "Not really," Keanu said, standing up. "People like that think they can treat others however they want, but every once in a while karma books them a different flight." Sandra burst out laughing. "Oh my God, you're too smooth for this world." As the flight was called for boarding, the duo made their way to the gate, sharing an inside joke that only they understood. Meanwhile, the rich older woman, red-faced and furious, was escorted toward a separate counter, arguing with an airline rep about why she had to be moved. Passengers who had witnessed the whole thing smiled as Keanu and Sandra walked by. Some even clapped. And as they stepped onto the plane, settling into their luxurious first-class seats, Sandra leaned toward Keanu and whispered, "This almost feels like a movie scene." Keanu grinned. "Yeah, but this time we didn't even have to speed a bus. The end, or just another chapter in the adventures of Keanu and Sandra. That was fun. Should I add even more twists? Maybe the old lady turns out to be an ex-Hollywood producer or something?" "You got it. Time for some more drama and twists." Rich old lady insults Sandra Bullock in first-class lounge. Keanu Reeves' reaction shocks everyone on side. Part 3. Sandra leaned back in her first-class seat, still chuckling at Keanu's karma books them a different flight line. "You really are the smoothest man alive, aren't you?" she teased. Keanu smirked but didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out his book again, flipping through the pages like none of this had just happened. But the peace didn't last long. Just as the cabin crew began final checks before takeoff, Sandra's eyes widened as she spotted something, or rather someone, boarding the plane. "Keanu? She's back." Keanu looked up casually, and sure enough, there she was. The rich old lady, now looking absolutely furious, was arguing with a flight attendant at the front of the cabin. "I have every right to be here," she snapped. "Do you know who I am? Do you have any idea what I've done for this airline?" The poor flight attendant looked exhausted. "Ma'am, you were rebooked on another flight. You are not scheduled to be on this one." "Oh, nonsense. My assistant fixed it. I always fly first class, and I'm not about to be disrespected by some washed-up actress and her charity case boyfriend." Sandra stiffened. "Oh, hell no." Keanu calmly put a hand on her arm before she could unbuckle her seatbelt and get up. He was still eerily relaxed, but now there was something in his eyes, something dangerously amused. "Let's see how far she takes this," he muttered. And then something strange happened. A man sitting in the row in front of them turned around and laughed, a deep, knowing laugh. Sandra looked at him, an older gentleman, well-dressed, probably in his late 60s, with silver hair and a sharp gaze. "I knew I recognized her," the man said, shaking his head. "Still causing trouble, huh, Vivian?" The old woman, Vivian, froze. Keanu and Sandra exchanged glances. Vivian's lips thinned. "Stay out of this, Gerald." But Gerald wasn't done. He turned to Keanu and Sandra, smiling. "You two ever hear of Vivian Hawthorne?" Keanu closed his book, fully interested now. "Can't say I have." Sandra frowned, thinking, "Wait, Hawthorne, like Hawthorne Studios?" Gerald nodded. "The very same. She was one of the biggest power players in Hollywood back in the day, made and broke careers with a snap of her fingers." Keanu's eyebrows raised slightly, but he said nothing. Sandra, on the other hand, exhaled slowly. "Wow, I have heard stories. Ruthless, controlling, impossible to please. Didn't she retire years ago?" "Not exactly," Gerald said, a knowing smile playing on his lips. "She was forced out after a few scandals. Let's just say her attitude didn't age well in this era. And now, looks like she's just another entitled passenger trying to throw her weight around where it doesn't belong." Vivian's face was turning red. "That's enough, Gerald. At this point, the flight captain himself arrived. "Miss Hawthorne, we've already explained." "Fine," she snapped. "I'll go. But this isn't over." And with that, she turned on her heel and stormed off the plane, her heels clicking angrily against the floor. Sandra leaned back, exhaling. "Well, that was something." Keanu picked up his book again. "Hollywood's smaller than we think." Gerald chuckled, "especially when you live long enough to see the mighty fall." As the plane finally took off, Sandra glanced at Keanu and grinned. "Okay, next time, we're taking a private jet." Keanu smirked. "You paying?" Sandra groaned. "Damn it. I knew you were going to say that." And just like that, the chaos of the day faded away into laughter, leaving behind another unforgettable Keanu and Sandra moment for the books. The end. Or maybe, just another chapter. What do you think? Want me to add an even crazier twist? Maybe Vivian tries to buy the airline just to get revenge. You got it. Let's take this drama to the next level. Rich old lady insults Sandra Bullock in first-class lounge. Keanu Reeves' reaction shocks everyone on side. Part 4. The flight was finally in the air, and Sandra was settling into her seat, trying to enjoy the peaceful hum of the cabin. Keanu, as always, was relaxed, flipping through his book like nothing had happened. But something was happening. About an hour into the flight, Sandra's phone buzzed. She glanced at the notification and immediately frowned. "What the?" Keanu looked over. "Something wrong?" Sandra turned her phone toward him, showing an urgent news headline. "Breaking, former Hollywood mogul Vivian Hawthorne in talks to acquire majority stake in international airline after onboard incident." Keanu raised an eyebrow. "Well, that escalated quickly." Sandra groaned. "You've got to be kidding me. She's actually trying to buy the airline just to get back at us?" Keanu smirked. "That's dedication." Sandra swiped at her phone, scrolling through the article. It says she's already reached out to investors and is furious about the way she was treated. She's calling this an unacceptable breach of respect for Hollywood royalty. Keanu laughed quietly. "Guess we're Hollywood peasants now." Before Sandra could reply, the flight attendant from earlier reappeared, looking nervous. "Ms. Bullock, Mr. Reeves, we just got a message from the ground team. Apparently Miss Hawthorne is already making calls. She's threatening to have certain problematic passengers banned from flying with us in the future." Sandra threw her hands up. "Oh, come on. This is next-level villain behavior." Keanu leaned back, considering something. "Doesn't matter." Sandra gave him a look. Yeah, it kinda does." "I'd like to keep flying without having to charter a plane every time, thanks." Keanu shrugged. "People like her thrive on power. She wants us to react. The best thing we can do is not care." Sandra let out a slow breath. Yeah, you're right." But just as she was starting to relax again, another ding came from her phone. This time it wasn't a news alert. It was a text. From a blocked number. It simply read, "Enjoy your flight while you can. The skies won't always be so friendly." Sandra's eyes widened. She turned to Keanu. "Okay, now it's officially creepy." Keanu read the message, then chuckled. "She really sent a villain monologue text." Sandra shook her head. "What do we do? Should we respond? Leak it to the press? Warn the airline?" Keanu smiled, leaning forward. "No, we do something better." Sandra narrowed her eyes. "And what's that?" Keanu took out his phone, tapped a few buttons, then handed it to her. She looked down at the screen. It was a selfie, Keanu grinning and holding up a peace sign. Sandra burst out laughing. "Oh my God, are you texting her a selfie?" Keanu nodded, with a thumbs-up emoji. Sandra doubled over, laughing so hard she almost spilled her drink. "You are impossible." Keanu shrugged, killing her with kindness. As the message sent, Sandra grinned. "Okay, if we survive this, I'm definitely making you buy me dinner." Keanu smirked. "Fine, but I'm picking the place." And with that, they leaned back in their seats, ready to enjoy the rest of their flight, while somewhere on the ground an outraged Vivian Hawthorne screamed at her phone, demanding to know why Keanu Reeves had just sent her a smug, perfect selfie. The end? Or just the beginning of the war in the skies? What do you think? Should we push it even further? Maybe a full-blown Hollywood revenge saga? Alright, let's turn this into a full-blown Hollywood revenge saga. Buckle up. Rich old lady insults Sandra Bullock in first-class lounge. Keanu Reeves' reaction shocks everyone on side. The moment Keanu's smug selfie was delivered, a ripple of chaos was set in motion. Meanwhile, in a luxurious penthouse suite at LAX's most expensive hotel, Vivian Hawthorne screamed at her assistant. "What do you mean he sent me a selfie? I was expecting fear. I was expecting panic." She threw her diamond-studded phone onto the couch. "Keanu Reeves just mocked me." Her assistant, a nervous young woman in a designer blazer, gulped. "Ma'am, it's trending." Vivian whirled around. What's trending?" The assistant hesitantly turned her iPad toward her. On Twitter, the hashtag #KeanuVivian was exploding. Someone had leaked the story, likely a witness from the first-class lounge. Now, social media was ablaze with memes. Keanu selfie with a thumbs up. Caption, "When a billionaire Karen threatens you, but you're actually Keanu Reeves." Clip from Speed, Sandra saying, "You're crazy." Keanu replying, "Yeah, but not stupid." Caption, "Keanu Reeves when he finds out Vivian is trying to buy an airline just to ban him." Random movie villain images. Caption, "Vivian Hawthorne is Hollywood's next great supervillain." Vivian's hands shook with rage. "I will not be made into a meme." Her assistant cautiously raised a hand. Ma'am, you already are." "Fine. You want war, Keanu. You want war, Sandra. You have no idea who you're dealing with." She snatched her phone and dialed a number. "Get me the CEO of the airline, now." Meanwhile, back on the plane, Sandra scrolled through Twitter, giggling. "Dude, you broke the internet." Keanu smirked. "It happens sometimes." Sandra shook her head. "No, seriously, this is next level. You turned her villain monologue into a meme, and now the world's roasting her." Just then, the flight captain's voice came over the speaker. "Ladies and gentlemen, we regret to inform you that we will be making an unscheduled landing in New York due to unforeseen circumstances. We apologize for the inconvenience and appreciate your cooperation." Sandra's smile vanished. "Wait, that's not normal." Keanu set his book down. "No, it's not." As the flight attendants moved around, murmuring to each other, one of them approached their row, looking extremely uncomfortable. "Mr. Reeves, Ms. Bullock, we were just informed that your tickets have been revoked." Sandra blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" The flight attendant winced. "Apparently the airline's ownership just changed hands mid-flight. The new majority investor has personally requested that you both be removed from the plane." Sandra and Keanu exchanged looks. Keanu sighed. "Vivian works fast," Sandra groaned, rubbing her temples. "This lady bought an airline just to kick us off a flight. That's insane." Keanu leaned toward the flight attendant. "Legally speaking, you can't actually throw us off a plane mid-air, can you?" The flight attendant chuckled nervously. "No, sir, we're landing first. But, we were instructed that your luggage would be dropped off at JFK, and you will not be allowed to board any of our connecting flights." Sandra exhaled. Okay, you know what, let's play her game. Let's land and see how far she's willing to go." Keanu nodded. "Agreed, let's meet her on the ground." Sandra grinned. "Time to go full speed mode." Keanu smirked. "Just don't drive the airport shuttle into a plane, okay?" Sandra rolled her eyes. "No promises." As the plane began its descent, one thing was clear. Vivian Hawthorne had declared war. And Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock, they weren't about to back down. To be continued. Okay, now we're really in a full-blown Hollywood revenge thriller. Should I add secret alliances, unexpected betrayals, or maybe even a high-speed airport chase scene?